What's up guys, Andrew Bainey here, and on today's video we are going to be checking out the brand new Fortin Cali plugin by Neural DSP. As always, this demo video is going to be split into 3 sections. First and foremost, I'm going to show you guys what this plugin sounds like in a full demo mix. Next, after that, we're going to take a look at all the features and specs of the plugin. And finally, we're going to go through all those features and specs and play with them so you guys can hear how it affects the guitar tone in this context. So without further ado, this is a demo of the plugin in a full band mix, and it sounds like this. So now that I've shown you guys what this plugin sounds like in a full mix, we're going to talk about the features and the specs of this plugin. Also, just want to note that that demo track was recorded with an 8-string guitar in drop E. This is a Solar Guitars A1.8C, all completely stock with 10 to 74 gauge strings on it. In addition to that, I also want to mention that of course the guitar was double tracked left and right, as you guys heard in the intro and then throughout the rest of that demo. Okay, so moving on to the actual plugin. As I mentioned earlier, this is the newest plugin by Neural DSP. They are a company that's known for making extremely high quality plugins. I actually sold my Kemper profiling amp because all I use is their plugins, so I don't even need any physical modeler anymore because I honestly think these are better. So they've done a ton of other plugins such as the Parallax, the Dark Glass, the Fortin Nameless Suite, Fortin NTS Suite, and then the Archetype series, which is Plini, Abasi, and Nolly, and a few other plugins as well. But this is their newest offering, which is another Fortin suite. And this one is based off of the Cali amplifier, which is a 50-watt 3-channel amplifier by Fortin. So of course, this plugin is made to look and feel exactly like the real amp. I haven't personally tried the real amp, of course, so I couldn't tell you how close it gets to the original. However, I did play the Nameless suite and the Nameless amp at NAMM a couple years back, and I honestly couldn't tell the difference, so I'm sure that this is about the same. So for this plugin, it has 3 channels, as I mentioned earlier. It has a clean channel, an OD1, and an OD2 channel. It also has a pedal section, which is going to look familiar to you if you've used any of Neural DSP's other plugins. So in this pedal section, they have the Fortin Zool, Hex Drive, and Grind pedal that you can select. You can use any combination of the 3 or none if you so choose. And last but not least, it has a cabinet section where it has a bunch of different microphone options, as well as the ability to change the position, distance, level, pan of the microphones. And also you can load your own impulse responses if you'd like in this section, and you don't want to use the ones that were included in the plugin. Okay, now that I've shown you guys a brief general overview of what this plugin can do, we're going to go on a deep dive and explore all the areas of the plugin. First and foremost, we're going to start with the pedal section that I showed you guys. So as I mentioned earlier, this has the Zool pedal, Hex Drive pedal, and the Grind pedal. So respectively, the Zool pedal is a noise gate, Hex Drive is an overdrive pedal, and the Grind pedal is a boost pedal. So for the tone that I was using, I had the Grind pedal at max and the Zool pedal at almost max, and I was not using the Hex Drive, but again, we're going to play around with all 3 and show you guys what the difference that makes. Also, I just want to note that I have switched my project now to a different song, which is in drop A instead of drop E, because I know some people don't really like those ultra low drop E notes. They find it a little hard to hear. So this is tuned a little bit higher and maybe a little bit easier to hear what's going on and what changes are being made. So I'm going to play you guys what it sounds like with the settings as shown on the screen right now. So if we go ahead and turn off the Grind pedal completely, you're going to notice a huge difference like this. And if we turn it back on, So as you can hear, obviously the grind pedal adds a ton of boost to the DI signal, which in this case makes it stand out and sound a lot better than it does without it, in my opinion. Next up, we're going to turn off the grind pedal and turn on the hex drive pedal instead, which is once again that overdrive pedal. These are the default settings that were already here, so I'm going to see how this sounds. So as you can see, that adds a ton of extra saturation and tone to that. I know a lot of people like having the overdrive pedal with the drive at 0 and the tone at full and the level at full or something like that. That's usually how overdrive pedals are genuinely used. But in this case of my tone, I actually kind of prefer the boost pedal because it's closer to what I would use on my physical pedal board, which is a boost pedal and not an overdrive. And then as for the noise gate, this isn't the best example of use for this because this section doesn't really have any choppy start-stop sections. So we're going to move on to the next section of the song so you guys can really hear how that shines, like so. So as you can hear, in those little areas where there's no guitar being played, it cuts it off pretty quick. If we turn off the Zool pedal, it should sound a little more sloppy like this. So obviously it gets rid of the background amp hissing sound, and also it helps when you stop playing to fully cut it off, which especially in gent is very important, obviously. Yeah, so that's pretty much all for the pedal section. So next up, we're gonna move on over to the amp settings. And this is where things get quite interesting. So for the tone that I'm using, I personally really liked the OD1 for that really heavy distorted rhythm tone. Once again, I'm gonna play you guys what it sounds like with nothing altered, and it sounds like this. So of course it has the kind of typical amp settings that you would expect on any amp head. It's got master volume, presence, bass, middle, treb, and then it also has gain 2 and gain 1. And then it also has a few switches on the bottom, which we'll talk about in just a second. But I'm gonna play through that little clip once more and just play with a few of the knobs so you guys can hear what difference that makes. Okay, and then next up, before I talk about these switches on the bottom, we're gonna go ahead and switch to OD2 channel, and I'll show you guys how this sounds with similar amp settings. So as you can hear, this one is a little bit differently voiced, and it also kind of has a little bit less gain. That's again kind of why I prefer the OD1 in my case, where I'm doing more of like a metalcore, deathcore thing. And then of course, last but not least, is a clean amp section. So this one's gonna sound completely different, and it's not really gonna work with this riff in particular. So we're gonna switch over to a different riff that was made with a clean tone in mind. It's to show you guys this one. Okay, so I just went ahead and clicked the Healthy Clean preset. I guess this is also a good time to mention, by the way, that there's tons of available presets that are built into the plugin. When you guys get your hands on it, it might look a slight bit different than mine because they always update it a little bit before public launch. But yeah, so this is the Healthy Clean preset, which is included in the plugin. And that sounds like this. So as you can hear, it gives you a nice, warm, clean amp tone. The only unfortunate thing about this plugin is that it does not also include some kind of like reverb or delay or echo modulation effects that some of the other Neural DSP plugins have. However, of course, you can run this plugin into another plugin to get all your delays and reverbs. but it's not included in this plugin, and that's worth mentioning. Okay, now we're gonna go back to that distorted rhythm tone that I had in the first place, and I'm gonna talk about these switches and knobs on the bottom that are additional features that are quite unique to this plugin and this Fortin Cali amp in particular. So first and foremost, you're gonna see that there are four switches on the bottom. There's a thump switch, hair switch, violence switch, and bright switch. In addition to that, there's also this thing that says pull sat on the bass knob, where if you actually click the bass knob, if you click the pull sat button, you can see that the bass knob kind of pops out. So it's supposed to mimic, like, you know, pulling the knob out like a push-pull knob. So the thump and hair switches affect the negative feedback as well as the depth of the amp. The violence switch is a two-way switch, and that enables a fourth gain stage essentially. And last but not least, on the pull sat knob, if you pull it out, you get a little more compression and gain on the bass end. And of course, there's a bright switch, which is pretty self-explanatory. It just brightens up the overall sound. So we're gonna go ahead and play through that intro riff again, and I'm gonna play with these switches so you guys can hear what difference those make. Okay, and last but not least, we're gonna move on to the cabinet section of the plugin. So in this section, as I mentioned earlier, you can select which mics you wanna mic up the built-in cab with, and you can select the position, the distance, the level, the pan of each mic. You can select whether you want two mics or one mic, and you can also select if you wanna import your own impulse responses instead of using the built-in cabinet that's included in this plugin. So we're gonna go ahead and take a look at what difference that makes. So the default options are the ones that I stuck with, which is the Dynamic 57 and the Condenser 414. So I liked having the combo of those two. So we're gonna go ahead and turn off the Condenser 414 and just run with the soloed Dynamic 57 so you guys can hear what that sounds. And I'm just gonna go ahead and cycle through a few of the different mic options that are built in. And that's gonna sound something like this. And again, with this section, you have complete control over the mics. Like I said, position, distance, level. So we're gonna go ahead and mess around with those while that riff plays once more, and it's gonna sound like this. So again, there are tons of unique possibilities and ways to combine different mics and different positions and distances and levels here, which is much more than I usually get into personally. I like just leaving it as the default, which is the 57 and 414. That in general sounds great to me, and I haven't really felt the need to dive too much deeper into this section. But with that being said, I'm also very not knowledgeable about how you actually mic up a real cabinet. So maybe if you are into, you know, doing real mics and real cabs, this will be of more interest to you and you'll be way more knowledgeable about it than me. So full disclosure, that's kind of where my mind is at in this settings. Okay guys, that's gonna pretty much do it for this video. Once again, if you guys wanna get a free trial of this plugin, you can find a link to that in the description below, as well as the pinned comment. go check it out. Go take a look at Neural DSP's website, as well as all of the other awesome plugins that they have there. Again, I have been a user of their plugins for, I think, a year or two now, and exclusively using their plugins basically for the last 6 months, if not longer. I really, truly believe in this company, and I think they are making absolutely amazing products, and I'm going to give them a huge thank you for supporting this channel and sponsoring this video. Last but not least, I want to give a huge shout out to all my Patreon members whose names are on the screen at this point in time. If you guys are interested in getting a shout out on the screen, audio downloads, audio stem downloads, or guitar tabs, you can find all of that over on my Patreon page, which is also going to be linked in the description below. That's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to reading your comments. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.